Google, hey Alexa, worldwide. Play the Pulse of an H. Jack Keith, good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, Maine. Good morning, New England. Good morning, beyond. And our poll question this morning, up on X at the Pulse of an H, 2nd District Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander calling for a federal investigation of the Sununu Youth Services Center in Manchester. You've heard a lot about that over the last several years. Do you think that's a good idea? Yes or no? We'll have results for you tomorrow. Yesterday, we asked you, speaking of this Michigan U.S. Senate race, and now Abdul El Sayed is claiming victory this morning, a narrow, maybe 2-point victory. He is the socialist, I would go so far as to say the socialist communist, but the socialist candidate who's got the energy and wins kind of a very big statewide primary in the U.S. Senate race in the state of Michigan. Some would argue it could have an impact on who has majority in the fall in the U.S. Senate. And he beats a established Democrat candidate who got a lot of establishment support. So here we go again. We're going to have a lot of coverage this morning. Got a packed show for you, so buckle up. And we're going to go to some of our political experts and analysts and all-stars right away and go through a whole string here and get some analysis and reaction. There were other state primaries last night, but we have to either Paul Steinhauser with Fox or Brad Card. Tell me who we're going to first, J-Dog. What's that? We have Steiny? Paul Steinhauser reporting live nationally for Fox News and Fox News Digital, starting off in Michigan. Paul, I'm not surprised. It was closer than I thought, but this is, I don't like using words like gigantic, politically speaking, but, wasn't too long ago, Paul, if we begin our morning on a Wednesday with headlines like a Democrat socialist wins the Senate primary in Michigan, it'd be a big story. Take it away, Paul.
Oh, hello. Good morning from Detroit, Jack. Yeah, listen, we have seen already this spring and into the summer victories by the far left over the establishment in these Democratic primaries, but they've come in congressional districts, very blue districts. Think New York City, think Denver, right? Some of the bigger stories we've seen. This one, Jack, this was really big. This was the biggest stage yet because this was a statewide contest. And not just any state. We're talking Michigan, one of the biggest, most important battleground states in the nation. And you're absolutely right about this race. This is the race to succeed retiring Democratic Senator Gary Peters. This is a must-win for the Democrats. They have to hold this seat if they have any chance to win back the Senate majority in November. Democrats also have to hold on to their seat in our home state of New Hampshire as well. But this, if it happens, and it sure looks like that the Associated Press will probably call it for Abdul later this morning. Some other networks have already called it for Abdul El Sayed, and he is declaring victory. But as you missed, so yes, it is a huge, huge boost for the far left in there. I guess really what you could call a civil war for the ideological future of the Democratic Party. Jack, I will say, though, the establishment did have some victories last night because remember, 5 states from across the country voted. Cori Bush, you remember her. She was a squad member, a far left one, pals with AOC and some of the others. She was trying to win back her seat from the establishment Democrat that ousted her 2 years ago. She failed. And one other headline from last night that's worth mentioning on the Republican side, President Trump, his clout over the GOP was tested once again. And guess what? He easily passed the test. The 2 candidates he was backing in gubernatorial primaries for the Republicans in Kansas and here in Michigan, they both won. So the Republican Party is still Donald Trump's party, if anybody had any doubts.
All right, Paul, live from Detroit, Michigan. Thank you, Paul. Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going to switch gears. Brad Card. Brad Card doesn't need an introduction here. Good morning. And your reaction to all the above.
Well, like I said, Jack, the best thing that's happening right now for Republicans and Democrats, I mean, the fact that they appear that they're going to nominate Abdul El Sayed to be the nominee in Michigan. You can kiss that race goodbye, Michiganders. All right, Republicans are going to win that Senate seat, in my opinion. Mike Rogers is a great candidate. He's the Republican nominee. He ran for the Senate last time, and he lost by a very, very, very close margin. He is former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, former congressman, and he's been campaigning nonstop. And I think this is the kiss of death. This race is very, very close still, about 15,000 votes. with about 60,000 votes outstanding. But it looks like El Said's going to win. And no matter what, even if Haley Stevens was able to kind of overcome this 15,000 vote threshold, which I don't think she's going to be able to, but if she could, this is a very deeply divided party in Michigan now. You have the hard left. I think it's the radical left with the more mainstream.
Is it just Michigan, Brad, though? Is it the National Democrat Party right now?
It's happening in an awful lot of places, but it hasn't happened on a statewide scale yet, like we see in Michigan.
Yeah, it was statewide.
This is the big deal. So I think that you're going to see a very deeply divided party, and the problem with these late primaries, and this is considered as a relatively late primary, you don't have months and months and months and months that men senses, and these races become personal.
Interesting.
It's just Haley Stevens has been a candidate that's been embraced and beloved by the establishment. Gretchen Whitmer and the Chuck Schumers and everybody. Now you've got this guy who is a socialist, and he's radical.
That's putting it mildly. I mean, he's basically pushing Beijing, China type ideas with corporations being taken over by the government or owned.
Government ownership of private corporations. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah,
crazy.
All right, Brad Card. We have a whole list here. Thank you, Brad Card. Enjoy your Wednesday. Beautiful day out there. Thanks, Brad.
See ya.
All right, Neil Levesque. We're going to keep going here. One of our political analysts and all-stars. He's head of the St. Anselm's Institute of Politics. Good morning, Mr. Neil. Reaction. Let's start with Michigan.
Too close to call right now, but the fact that Abdul El-Sayed has a slight lead, that could be a big headline going into the fall, and I think a lot of national Democrats don't want to have that happen because it's going to basically create a tipping point for Republicans to say this is the kind of Democrats that are out there, and so there's a lot on the line here as we go through who's going to win this race.
I already heard the Republican likely, because I think Abdul El-Sayed's already claimed victory, but we'll see. I guess it's a couple points, but his likely Republican challenger in the U.S. Senate, who's pretty popular out there, I guess, is kind of a known figure. He said a quote this in the news this morning. It was pretty good, actually. It's short, too. It's very short, succinct. Never before in this state have I seen one of our major parties nominate such an extreme individual. That's all you have to say, I mean, in terms of his views. But, Neil, what does it say about, look at who campaigned for him? Bernie, AOC, the Squad, Elizabeth Warren. You didn't see Gavin Newsom out there. You didn't see any of these other Democrats. That group, I'm going to call it the socialist group of the Democrat Party, they seem to be driving the boat, the Democrat boat. They're the ones in the captain's chair.
They've been winning a lot of national arguments and a lot of races, and I think it shows the big divisions in the Democratic Party, and I think that that's one of the reasons, and not to go back to our primary, but it's one of the reasons that the National Party has sort of clamped down and said, we don't want to have voters pick who's going to be the nominee of the next president of the United States. They want to have the party bosses do it because this kind of outcome wouldn't happen if party bosses were choosing nominees.
And it's the last thing I think New Hampshire Democrats want to defend. I said something yesterday on my show. It's in a post. It's quite interesting. The national and local media, mainstream media, will constantly ask Republican candidates, do you support President Trump? Do you support President Trump of Republicans? They'll ask that. That's the gotcha question for Republicans. And on the Democrat side, I don't know if they're going to ask in this state, more what quote unquote mainstream established Democrats, do you support Abdul El-Sayed? Do you support the socialist push within your party? Or it's a revolution, and I asked Senator Shaheen when she was on a few weeks ago about the advancement of the Democrat Socialist Party and all these primaries and her reaction. And she was overseas at that aerospace air show in England, and she said, well, every party goes through an evolution. I think this is a revolution in the Democrat Party, don't you?
I do think that it is some sort of probably in between, but parties change over time. Remember that the only reason parties exist is to win. You get together with a whole group of people that not necessarily agree with, and you try to win elections. And if parties are not winning elections, they need to evolve.
Interesting. All right, Neil Levesque on this Wednesday. I appreciate it, Neil.
Thank you, Jack.
You know, I was saying to one of my touchdowns before the show, before I go on, I'm blessed with a multitude of calls and just thinkers out there, public policy leader types, and talking about, the issues. As I'm commuting in, paying a lot of money for gas right now, and I said, it's amazing. On 10 years ago on a morning like this in August, if we woke up to the following news, this is what I heard on the lead news on Fox and our news this morning, and all the news stories are accurate. I'm not criticizing the news, because we have news for you top and bottom of the hour. Mike Pomp does an excellent job with the local news. And the news stories this morning, to begin my morning with this, and I'm going to just recap as a news guy. Here you go. You ready? It looks like the socialist in the statewide Michigan U.S. Senate primary Democrat race is going to win. Abdul El Sayed is going to win that primary in Michigan. An individual was arrested in California near a President Trump golf course where the president was going to be with ammunition and apparently doing surveillance and security to try an assassination attempt. Third story, war in the Middle East continuing. President Trump hoping for a deal today. And the markets are way up this morning. And I'm like, setting a record, an all-time high, 54,000. Markets are up. Oil prices are up. War in the Middle East. Assassination, possible attempt in California. Would that be the fourth? And a socialist wins the Michigan Senate primary. And I'm like, any other time in our lives, any one of these stories would rock the boat. Today, hardly rocks the boat. We'll come back and see if Dean Spiliotis, one of our political analysts and experts, retired Southern New Hampshire University political scientist, what his thoughts on Michigan and some of these other races and the news of the day. Back on the Pulse of NH Dog, we will pull up our poll question from yesterday. We asked you our poll question up on X at the Pulse of NH. Do you think a socialist Democrat could win a federal primary race here in New Hampshire like we've seen in other states, yes or no? In our poll question this morning, Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander calling for a federal investigation of the Sununu Youth Services Center in Manchester. Do you agree or not, or do you support or not? Back on the Pulse of NH in a moment.
Register now for the Pulse of New Hampshire's annual Birdies
Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back, and as we bring in Dean Spiliotis, our political scientist in residence, one of them, expert, joining us this Wednesday morning, plenty to talk about and react to. J-Dog, it's a good segue if you want to pull those at some point here, our poll results. Poll on X yesterday on the Pulse of NH, because we ask, look at this Michigan U.S. Senate race. El Sayed claiming victories, overt, proud socialist by any, almost communist in his views of corporations. Results from yesterday about New Hampshire, and could this ever happen in a federal race? Take it away.
A progressive socialist won a Democrat primary in New Hampshire. That's what you had asked. And 66.7% saying no, 33.3% saying yes.
At this rate, it won't be long. I mean, I'm looking at some of the reaction locally from New Hampshire Democrats, thrilled with his victory in Michigan. I think some party elders are probably cringing this morning with his victory in Michigan, but Dean Spiliotis, retired Southern New Hampshire University political scientist. Take it away, Dean.
Hey, good morning, Jack. Yeah, it's interesting. The results in Michigan actually turned out to be much, much closer between El Sayed, the progressive, and Stevens, the congresswoman who was considered a bit more moderate. He's up by about 19,000 votes. Polling had him predicted him winning by 10 to 15 points. So just a massive miss on the polling. It looks like he probably will be the nominee. The 3 or 4 percentage points that are still remaining out the vote will likely put him over the top. But it's very close. And so I think there's a danger in reading too much into this. There have been a lot of kind of apocalyptic stories in recent weeks about socialists taking over the Democratic Party. And to be precise, El Sayed is not a member of the DSA. He's a Democrat, but he is very progressive, and some of his views can certainly be cast as socialist. I think if Democrats are smart, what they'll read this result in, the way they should read this result is in places where a more progressive left-wing message resonates, whether it's Michigan or New York City, or some of the cities out on the West Coast, some of the congressional districts on the West Coast, you go with it. And in places where more moderate Democrats have done well, you think of Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, the governor, Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, governor, that they need to kind of, if in fact they want to have a Big Ten party, they've got to be willing to tailor the approach to the particular demographics of the Congressional Missouri, where Cori Bush, a former member of Congress, she is a DSA, I believe now. She lost her seat. She was part of the original squad. We'll talk about the squad. She lost her seat. She tried to regain it last night. Got beaten resoundingly by the more moderate Democratic incumbent in that seat. So certainly this general election race in Michigan is going to be really fascinating for what it says about the Democratic Party. But I think people who are worried about the DSA takeover of the party, I'm sure they would have preferred to have El Sayed lose. But Stevens is only going to lose by about 20 or 25,000 votes, and polling had her getting creamed in this race. So, so that's something there to look at.
It did. I mean, the 14, 16-point lead for El Sayed, but I think there's some other profound.
Way off.
Yeah, they were, but I think there's some profound takeaways that maybe I'll read into more than you, given your academic discipline, Dean. And that is, you look at Stevens and you look at just how established she was, and that may be the word that some of these activists don't like. And I still go back to the main Senate primary with Graham Plattner before he got eaten by his own. He won that thing, and even though Governor Mills had suspended her campaign, she was right there on the ballot, and people have been voting for her for a while, and he got like 70% of that primary vote. You look at New York City and New York, those boroughs and districts that started all this, those three, I think there were three, a couple of those Democrats, including one, and I think it was the 13th congressional district in New York, the member of Congress was about as established but respected liberal Democrat as they come. I think he was head of the Hispanic caucus in Congress, and he got trounced. And I'm looking at this going, there is a message here. There is a message here.
Sure, and I do think it's certainly a push. People want change, which is always part of every election to some extent. But what's really interesting to me, if you look at the data on all of this polling, is that the way it varies by age. So people under the age of 45, and you and I have talked about this many times, Jack. You know, if you're in your 60s or 70s, your view of socialism and the role of government, et cetera, is a little bit different than somebody in their 20s or 30s. You look at the polling data, and there's just a big divide right around the mid-40s. People under the age of 45 are pushing much more harder for radical change. They're much more comfortable with the idea of socialism, whatever that means to them. It's just a fundamentally different thing. And, you know, I've said this is the Democrats have had this a long time in coming. You know, we had for many years the entire Democratic leadership in Congress was like over the age of 70. So the generational change, I think that's been long in coming. What's interesting is the way it's been coupled with these more left-wing ideas. So that is interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah. What else? Anything else? Well, there's so much here. You still see New Hampshire's Democrat Party in primaries kind of far away from Michigan. I mean, even though that race tightened, you still see the activism in the New Hampshire Democrat Party less far progressive left, or what?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and I would never say that, you know, what we've seen in some other places around the country couldn't happen here yet. I mean, couldn't happen here. I still think we're at least a few cycles away from that. It's not going to drive, I don't think, this particular cycle the way it might in some other states. But yeah, anytime you have generational change and you have younger voters coming into the system and they're experiencing the world kind of economically and socially in their 20s and 30s in a way that's different from how you or I or other older folks did, you have the possibility for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still think, you know, that at least on the Democratic side anyway, you know, Chris Pappas is going to be the nominee for Senate, and for that first CD, it's going to be, you know, either Mara Sullivan or Stephanie Shaheen, and the second CD, Maggie Goodlander, is, you know, going to be unopposed. So it's just not the conditions for that aren't really here yet.
You know,
if they start losing in general elections, then maybe
but
it'll be accelerated.
You don't sense that happening. The other thing, Dean, before I let you go, I think the real test for the Democrat Party nationally is going to be the run up to 2028.
Sure.
And who really can galvanize 50% of the Democrat Party to kind of get into even though they want to, you know, nullify our primary going first, but who can, you know, after 3 or 4 states in their primary, is one candidate going to pull away as the favored Democrat to run against, whether it's J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, whoever emerges on the other side, and that will be the test.
On the Republican side,
yeah, and how far left is that candidate going to be?
Yeah, I mean, there's always energy. You know, there's always activists in the party that tend to skew left, and that's always where a lot of the energy is. But you're right; it's going to be who emerges with broad support.
Yeah,
and if you watch some of the other folks in the mix, like Rahm Emanuel is the probably most high profile. Very different argument about where the Democratic Party needs to go, and so there are going to be some pretty loud voices, I think, on both sides. But yeah, I mean, and who captures that younger vote? Who gets the under 45 vote?
Well, let's not forget.
Tell us a lot.
Let's not forget that under 45 Democrat Party vote, or under 45.
Yeah,
65% have a more favorable view of socialism than
they're much more
capitalism.
comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Dean.
Absolutely, much more comfortable.
Thanks, Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy your Wednesday. All right, we come back, much more to react to. We got a packed show. We're going to hear from our friends in the 10 o'clock hour, New Hampshire Technical Institute, and a coalition against gambling in New Hampshire. Hey, Google, hey, let's play the Pulse of an Age. Back in a moment.
107.7 W.
huge. Now we put him together, socialist candidate, even if he's whether he's a member of the Democrat Socialist Party or not, pure brand, firebrand socialist, claiming victory in Michigan. We just had a bunch of reports. President Trump talking about the war in Iran and what's going to be the next step. Oil prices up. Another potential assassination attempt of some person plotting out in California at a Trump-owned golf course, and the markets reach a record high on any given day. John Decker, on any given day, these headlines are huge, and we just continue as normal. John Decker, our White House correspondent, joining us live in Michigan. Let's focus there. It was closer than I thought, but a pretty significant outcome for Bernie, AOC, and the squad, and Abdul El-Sayed.
Well, yeah, I think it's significant, as it relates to just Michigan, just that race, because you had the person who identified himself as the progressive Democrat beating the person who identified herself as a centrist Democrat. Now, Abdul El-Sayed will be the nominee for Democrats in the general election. He'll go up against Mike Rogers, who's run for the Senate before, lost narrowly. He's obviously endorsed by President Trump, and it will be about energizing your base, energizing your troops to see who can win in the general election. Big if, but we'll see what happens. If Republicans manage to flip that seat, I just don't see how Democrats can flip the Senate. This seat is so important in terms of their math, getting to the necessary number to win a majority.
Okay, so this person wins the primary. I think most political scientists would tell you it's a bigger stretch for this particular candidate, given his positions on corporations being controlled by the government, less funding for police, and driver licenses for illegal immigrants, those types of hot brand, firebrand issues, to win a statewide race in Michigan. And all the Democrats and all the leaders knew this, and it didn't matter. Because the energy in the Democrat Party, we saw it in Maine with Graham Plattner, the energy is to the far left.
Yeah, you're right. The energy is there. We'll see if El-Sayed can manage to bring in other strands of the electorate to essentially win the general election. Haley Stevens, his opponent, was seen as the better general election candidate against Mike Rogers. But now Democrats know they'll have to get behind El-Sayed, and that means essentially unifying the party and saying he's our guy to go up against Mike Rogers. It's going to be a very interesting race. I think that President Trump, will be traveling to Michigan quite a bit, just because he understands what the math is and what it means if Republicans can flip that seat.
Yeah, and I guess the president's off to Las Vegas today to talk about the economy?
That's right. He's been out west yesterday in L.A. and today in Las Vegas before heading back to Washington, D.C. So the president, over the course of the next 3 months, anytime he makes a speech, typically outside of the Beltway, it's going to be focused on the issue of affordability, and he'll touch on that in Las Vegas today.
Good. Thank you, John Decker, our White House correspondent. Thank you, John. Rory O'Neill in the 11 is going to have an update on the latest with the war in Iran, and we're at another tipping point. Here we go. Is there going to be some break in the action or back to bombing? And price of oil's up. It's just bizarre to me. Bizarre how these headlines mesh today. It's bizarre. I mean, on any other given day or year, these are all. A stock market yesterday surpassed 54,000, and you don't have to be a stock person to know it's a record high with all this stuff going on. Think about that for a moment. Oil prices are up. Uncertainty in the Middle East. Uncertainty in the Strait of Hormuz because of the war with Iran. Uncertainty in the Middle East. Turbulence within the Democrat Party, whether you like it or not, because a very progressive socialist wins a statewide primary, U.S. Senate primary in the state of Michigan, which could affect the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, or probably will. That guy that was arrested out in California near L.A., near the Trump-owned golf course, with ammo and studying surveillance again, like the other time at a Trump golf course in Florida. And was that going to be an assassination attempt? Any one of these stories on any given day would be huge. And, we just kind of roll with it. It's rather bizarre. Coming up, we're going to get a good update in a moment. I saw him yesterday at the great event. And I just want to thank Easter Seals and CJ and our team, and J-Dog yesterday really had a fulfilling live program broadcast from the grounds of the Military and Veteran Campus and Center in Franklin, New Hampshire. And it was really impactful to me to see what's going on, but to hear from so many experts, just devoted to improving care and resources and options available to cut down on things like veteran suicide right here in New Hampshire. It was a wonderful day. And I want to thank our friends there and so many of you who said hello, and Sheriff Crawford and others listening, Merrimack County and others. We had a very good day yesterday, and saw Kevin Forrest there yesterday. He's head of the VA. He was there, and he's going to join us in a moment with an update. So that was a very reminder to me and you, and I say this despite all the other news and all the other people that feel so entitled to this or that, or they don't like how long they have to wait for this, or where's mine, when in the where's mine society, where's my slice of pizza. It was just wonderful to be with so many military. General Michaelides on the show and get reconnected with him. And, I learned something yesterday. We have more people deployed and about to be deployed because of the Middle East and the war in the Middle East than I knew. And the general is going through the list, and more National Guardsmen or guard troops in New Hampshire are going to be deployed to the southern border. I think he said 100. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to it. So that's coming up. But it was an important reminder of supporting. And the other reminder yesterday was made to me of first responders. And we don't focus as much as we should on the first responders out there and what they deal with each day. And they could be firefighters, medical, EMT, police, sheriffs, local police, state police, and the first responders, the front line when you have to dial 911, the front line, and what they deal with. So a lot of services yesterday focusing on first responders and military. And I always feel recentered, recharged, refocused after I spend time with those who allow all this craziness with freedom of speech and freedom of religion and freedom period to happen, the less than 1% who serve. And it was also a reminder that in little old Live Free or Die, New Hampshire, we're doing a lot of things out of the box for our veterans, and that's pretty cool because I think we're leading the way of hopefully becoming the most veteran-friendly state of any state per capita in the country, and that's a profound statement. Very profound statement. Top of the 10 o'clock, we're going to be reconnected in our studios with our friends from New Hampshire Technical Institute on our great community colleges, and come back with Kevin in the Manchester VA on the Pulse of an H. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.
Before we do.
Oh, go ahead,
Before we
J-Rock.
do.
Oh, we got tickets?
We got tickets each hour
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
WWE will be live with their Super Show in Manchester at the SNHU Arena next Thursday. So, if you have not won in the last 30 days and have an email address, give us a call. What number, Jack?
Caller, the winner? Let's go with caller number 6.
Caller number 6, 603-228-28, 603-228-2080. WWE Live pair of tickets.
And J-Dog, with all the craziness in Congress and politics, it's a good show. You're going to want to go 603-228-2080, caller number 6, WWE next Thursday. And Bret the Hitman Hart won't be there, I don't know, but a lot of younger wrestlers today, J-Dog. It's going to be a great show. They put on a great show, and you know what? Might as well take your mind off that. If you think that the antics in Washington are that far-fetched, I think they're no more far-fetched than the entertainment of the WWE, but that's my humble opinion. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Thank you, J-Dog. Back in a moment.
This is the Paving. You're listening to Good Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
I appreciate it, and welcome back. We have Kevin Forrest, who's head of the VA here, and it was great to see Kevin and his colleague yesterday at Franklin for that phase 2 of their campus, the vet military campus there. And always good to see Kevin out and about, and a beautiful day yesterday. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Jack. Yeah, it was what an awesome event up there, just to see all the partners together and continuing to break ground on that awesome campus. What a great day.
Yeah, and I know you had to, when I was leaving after our show broadcast there, I was wanting to get you on, but you were walking back to your vehicle. I was going to stop and give you a ride, but you didn't care. You just, had the coat over your shoulder. You were going to take a 2-mile walk back to your vehicle.
So, hey, it's an Army thing, Jack.
Kevin, let's talk about the women's health, women's veterans program at the VA, which I think is growing. And you have a virtual or a town hall coming up not far away, and I think you have Laura with you. Take it away, Kevin.
I do. Laura is a regular with us here on the show. So, yeah, to all our veterans listening out there, we have a Women Veteran Tele-Town Hall on Tuesday, August 18th coming up. And these are always great events. I think last time we had over 2,000 callers on to get, updates about our great program. So with us here today is our Women Veteran Program Manager, Laura Case, and I will turn it over to Laura, Jack, to speak about some details.
Thank you, Laura.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. So our female veterans that are currently registered with VA Manchester Healthcare System will receive a call 24 hours in advance. So on Monday, August 17th at 5:30 p.m., they will get a recorded message to let them know about the event. And then on Tuesday, August 18th, those who are registered with VA Manchester and have a phone number on file will receive a call right at 5:30 p.m. In order to participate in the event, they do need to answer that phone call. If they're currently not enrolled here at Manchester, we, of course, want them to get enrolled. We would love for them to participate in our Tele-Town Hall, and or if they're not sure if their phone number is on file, we really encourage them to reach out. They can reach myself, Laura Case, at 603-624-4366, extension 205127. We have our leadership on with us during our Tele-Town Halls to be able to answer questions for veterans. And so we have our pharmacy, our gynecologist, our director or assistant director. It's a really awesome event.
Awesome. And Laura, what are the needs? What are the wants of services? Because Kevin and I have talked in the past. I think the women veteran sector or women leaving active duty or military service who are veterans coming to the VA is growing as a population, probably significantly. What are some of the health service and needs for care and support that they're looking for most?
Yeah, I would say our expansion of services that are specific to female veterans, such as gynecology, is a really big one. They also are really enjoying and wanting more of our whole health services and also ways to engage. So, for example, more mental health groups that are targeted for our female veterans. Again, the specialty care services for female veterans, and then opportunities for them to be able to engage in groups, and that is throughout the state. So they're really just wanting to be able to connect and get those services easily. One of the things that we have expanded with gynecology is their ability to self-schedule, so veterans may actually outreach the clinic directly. They do not need a referral or consult from the provider in order to get seen by our gynecologist. The other thing is maternity services. Not a lot of our veterans know that VA does cover maternity care services, so that's something we are always pushing. So that way every female veteran that needs the care is able to reach out to us and get that timely.
And Kevin, the Women's Health Center is a 2027 reality, I believe?
It is. I think we're looking certainly spring, March-ish. I'm actually going to tour the construction site tomorrow with a contractor and go through, and so we're really excited to add that to the new chapter of the Manchester VA here with a brand new construction. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and overall, I just think the folks out there, because it tied into the message yesterday in Franklin at the Military and Veterans Camp as part of Easter Seals, Kevin and Laura, is trying to tell, and it was 3 veterans yesterday. I relayed this, including one who came up, or 2 or 3 that came up, were very nice, just talking with me during our breaks, is if you haven't been to the VA in Manchester recently in the last year or so, and be current on your enrollment, learn about all the stuff they're doing, female, male veterans, really get over there, because there is a lot happening.
There is. We continue to enroll, especially, female veterans, women veterans are our fastest growing veteran population here in New Hampshire, and we continue to bring primary care physicians in to, accommodate the increasing demand, and that's why we're here, Jack.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And Laura, any final, maybe you gave your phone number earlier and you did it nice and slowly, but maybe one more time, or your name for any of the women out there who have served, who haven't been over, and current and learning about this, tele or virtual town hall.
Absolutely. So Laura Case, and that's 603-624-4366. As soon as you hear the voice, dial extension 205127.
All right, Kevin, I appreciate it, and we'll get you. I think we'll be on before that, and we'll promote it again. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Laura. Good to see you yesterday as well.
Thanks so much, Jack. Appreciate it.
All right. Interesting article I just read, and I want to end the hour on this, and we have a great segment coming up with our friends at the New Hampshire Technical Institute and our community colleges that are rocket and rolling, delivering higher education at affordable prices. There's a new promo for you. But Lewiston, Maine, and we have a lot of listeners now with our additional FM signal up into Maine, into Portland, 98.7 FM, HD2, 98.1 FM in Maine as well on the coast. But Lewiston, Maine, I'm not going to get into it. It's home of a few things, including Bates College. I went by the exit the other day. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law spent a lot of years there. He was running one of the beverage facilities for that region. And Lewiston, Maine, if you don't know it, the crime rate is out of control. People are coming forward to town, city meetings, talking about, please do something. I'm going out walking my dog and I'm getting shot at. What the heck's going on? Lewiston, Maine, not funding the police less. They just announced they're going to be spending $200,000 more on the police budget this year because they have such a problem with crime and violence. And they're looking for volunteers in Lewiston, Maine. They're looking for volunteers in the community to step forward to help them on weekends to go out in the downtown area and in the parks to pick up drug needles. I'm not making this up, Lewiston, Maine. To pick up drug needles in Lewiston, Maine, that are out and about that, they don't want kids to step on as they give out free drug needles in Maine. They want people to come forward now on the weekends in Lewiston to go help pick up drug needles. So anyway. All right. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the pulse of an HJ Dog on the boards. We're going to say hi to our friends at the great friends at New Hampshire Technical Institute, as places like UNH in Durham and Plymouth State and Keene State College try and figure out their financial futures. The community colleges, they have it figured out. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the pulse of an H. We are back in a